We all move through our lives questioning who we are or who we might become or who we're supposed to be. And you might be finding yourself really questioning that now on this day, actually. Well, my life was meant to tell you you were not wrong. Because what happens is we discover things and then we can answer certain questions and then we can give it to others. That's how we all evolve. And we happen to be in a time in your life and in our world where you can now accept that you were not wrong. Being wrong is something that we will do to ourselves because of something we've learned, something we believed, or some particular programming. And that is individually and also collectively in our society because we're meant to evolve, but we don't always do that because we will think somehow that we are wrong and we're not the people who are meant to be the important ones. We're not the ones who are here to make some sort of change. And then we'll look at our world and think something has gone wrong. And I'm meant to tell you, no, that didn't happen. And you are not wrong, and you are here to do something really wonderful. And the message that came through from Wilhelm on this day in 2020 will help you understand it because it was challenging for me to accept. What I'm saying is that we all have this guidance. We have something within us we were meant to do, or we believe that, but we can also think that we were wrong. And then we can become convinced of that because of what others tell us. No, this couldn't have happened. You couldn't be that person. And then we have to find our autonomy. And that is the process of evolving. That's becoming the master of yourself, or self-mastery, or self-actualization. But we all move through that process the same way in our consciousness. There is nothing else other than our consciousness in terms of how we might experience ourselves or see the world. And this message will help you understand it because we don't always do that. I certainly didn't. I will give you the link to this afterwards, but I have to read it because it will force me to become vulnerable and to surrender, because that's the other aspect of our lives that we must always do as we discover something. October 24th, 2020. You are not wrong. First of all, we must acknowledge our struggle with Roger because all of our recent messages begin with the pronoun you, and Roger thought it was redundant. We said no. We will continue to use it as none of you are through or fully accepting of the restructuring of your world and you occurring now. We began this message with Roger last night, for he was consumed with self-judgment as he examined his life and found all the things he might have done wrong and numerous instances where he felt he had been taken advantage of or tarnished in some way. We said that is not possible, which is what we are saying to each of you. You are finding yourself examining and questioning your lives at this time due to the various conditions apparent now as the pandemic and the election in the United States. It is challenging for you to recognize your importance in the world or the timing of when that importance might come through. But we will say to each of you and Roger that timing is now. Last night, we kept telling Roger he had not done anything wrong, and he knew we had said that for decades, and we do so because he, like you, doesn't believe us. Yesterday, Roger attended a meeting where he witnessed another thing we said he did not believe fully. Women will be the most significant influence in your restructuring, for the balance that is needed to shift for evolution to continue is the embodiment and inclusion of the feminine energies within each of you. Roger saw those women at the meeting yesterday, so his trust in our words was strengthened. This morning, Roger found the message we wanted you all to read. However, it is long, but if you have the initiative and want to feel your belief in yourself and your position in this entire evolution process, you will find it in this message. Today we are answering Roger's question, what if I'm wrong? November 20th, 2019, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? That question is the one You each desire to answer, and it is the one that also holds you back. We must say it took a while for us to convince Roger to write this message, and if you understand why, it will aid your acceptance of this message. Often Roger will argue with us as he begins hearing information come through in an attempt to find an exception to what we are saying. He is always unsuccessful. It will help all of you to receive this message when you visit our description of the ego, which we will post at the end. You each will have ideas, inclinations, desires, goals, or achievements you want to experience, but you don't know if they are the right ones. You want someone to answer that question for you. The reason you open our messages is in an effort to find answers to that question. We gave Roger an example of this yesterday as his client was experiencing this phenomenon that confuses you all. The client found himself questioning what he was up to in his life. They collectively decided to create a plan for achievement of the client's desires. It was not that the client didn't know what it was. They didn't want to answer that fundamental question. The only time you feel confused about this is when you have allowed your ego to answer that question for you. This message will require study on your part, but we will leave you with the answer you will find. You will know you are not answering that question when you are experiencing fear, sadness, or any uncomfortable emotion. To alleviate that condition, you will decide to answer the question. February 1st, 2019. Blame it on your ego. We wanted to use that title to inject a bit of levity into this message to counteract the judgment you and others may heap upon yourselves. Your ego, again, is that protective entity you created that thinks it will keep you safe. Then, as you discover it is what has been holding you back, you judge yourself as not being aware, which is not the case. You couldn't know freedom unless you experience bondage. You form these habits of thoughts because of what you accepted from your world or society. When you then discover there may be an easier way to live your life, your ego tells you you're delusional. That is to try to keep you where you are. It does not want you to think you could just ask for what you want and receive it. Decide to believe it now. That was the message that came through 5 years ago on this date. And the message that came through today was faith was the only missing ingredient. For all of us. For me, for you, because that is how we develop ourselves through our consciousness and having faith and to keep going. You don't know what you're going to develop. And when you go to the session, you will understand. When you go to this link, you will see something that I've put there, which is the first verified consciousness raising system in history. That's what all my questioning turned into. That's what all my doubt came about. And that's what all my difficulties, all my challenges, all my failures, all of them came to creating that. And what I'm saying is that when you decide that you are not wrong and that you have something, you're going to decide to develop it, it could turn into the thing that could change the world. Because that's what this work will do. And I suffered so much to go through it, but it doesn't matter now because you don't have to. That is what we're each meant to do with our lives. That is our legacy when we can accept who we are, own what we've accomplished, give it to others, we all evolve. And that is the period we're in now, and that is what I'm doing. And it had to happen on this day because I listened to Rabbi Abe last night, my soul coach, saying we're in the Scorpio season and it's about death and rebirth and truth. And that's been my entire life. And now I'm completing it because Wilhelm has given us everything that can change your life and our world. And so now I wasn't wrong. Neither were you. See you soon.